He's a product designer, author, and speaker. He's currently a product design director at Jive Software. Please help me welcome Rian.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think this is possibly the biggest topic change I've ever seen in a tech conference. Now that we've solved the problem of what it means to be human and how to have a relationship with robots, I'm going to tell you about enterprise software. So that should be interesting. But I'm going to tell you a little life story about enterprise software, why when we use it, it doesn't feel so good, and how we can actually make it a little bit better. I'm currently a product designer at Jive. We have a booth out there as well. And we've had an opportunity to bring some modern design techniques into what's traditionally a pretty stale environment to do in. So if you're okay about not solving philosophical questions about humanity, I'm going to get going. I hope that's cool with everyone. I feel a little bit like I should have had a bigger topic, but there you go. So the question is, what's so wrong with enterprise software? Why do we talk about it? And has anyone ever tried to put in time off in Oracle? Have you seen interfaces like this before? If you try to check your paycheck on ADP, who loves doing that? Anyone? No? Okay. I can't see you, but I'm assuming there's no hands in the air. So we all know about enterprise software and that it is traditionally a very, very difficult thing to use and not exactly fun. And as I've been thinking about this and working on it in the context of Jive, I came to this conclusion that there's basically two main reasons why enterprise software is so bad, and they're in two groups. One is there's an immense lack of empathy in the enterprise world, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And secondly, there's so much legacy that we have to deal with in the enterprise world. So I'm just going to talk about these problems a little bit and then talk to you about how I think we can fix it. So the lack of empathy problem is very simple to understand. The problem is we have a piece of software and we sell it to important people in suits. And then the people who use the thing, a little bit different. The problem is the people in suits who we sell the software to are very different from the people with the beards who actually use the software. So we have this disconnect. The people who pay us money for the software care about big words. They care about, I want to have control. I want to have all the configurability in the world. You need to be compliant to HIPAA and all kinds of bunch of different things. You need to be able to have all these features so I can try to convince my boss that we shouldn't buy Microsoft, and Microsoft has all these features. So unless you can match all those features, it's a non-starter. People who use the software care about something different. They just want to get stuff done. So by the time we sold it and these people have used the thing, it's not that easy. And this is where what I call the death cycle comes in, is where we make this huge sale to people, and then the people who use the software can actually use it, stop using it. Why does no one go to our SharePoint intranet? Well, they can't use it. And then a year later, you cancel that, and then you get into this weird death spiral where you keep selling stuff that have low renewal rates. And the big thing here is there's this lack of empathy. We don't understand, or we don't prioritize the needs of the people who are actually using the products and the software. The second problem is that there is so much legacy in these organizations. There's so much waterfall processes. When we say we work in an agile way in enterprises, we usually mean the developers use Jira and and then we're like, hey, we have an agile board in Jira, so we're good. No, you're actually not, because all the other processes around design and research and development and product marketing is all still very much waterfall until you get into this one little iterative thing that you manage in Jira. So when we say agile in enterprise, ask people about it, because it's often not the case. And secondly, there's these immense silos where we have a sales organization that doesn't get along with the product organization because the sales organization sells stuff that's not in the product yet, and then the product have to create stuff on a timeline that they don't really want to create. And does that sound familiar to anyone? Am I the only one in enterprise software? It's a bit cathartic for me, so thanks for letting me talk about it. So we have these issues of different silos not talking to each other, and this is just what happens in large companies. There's nothing much we can do about it. And then my favorite keynote animation, there's lots of bureaucracy going. You see the fire? I think we should do the fire again. That's pretty cool. Now I have to do it all again. You can use the fire only once in Keynote in a presentation, and I think this is an appropriate use of the fire in Keynote. Thank you. There's lots of bureaucracy. There's lots of people who have to sign off on things. So all of these legacy processes result in one thing. And I really like this quote by John Kolko, who said, "The dysfunction in the organization becomes the dysfunction in the product, and that gets passed on to customers." That's probably the closest I'll come to what means humanity. That's the deepest thing I'm going to say today. So let's pause on that for a moment and see if you can recognize this in your organization as well, where when there's dysfunction in your organization, it shines through in the product, and your customers have to pay for it. And we see that a lot, and we see that for these main reasons. There's lots of legacy, there's not enough empathy. But of course, we need to solve it somehow. So I want to talk about a few ways that I think we can actually make it better and solve this problem. The first thing to do is that we need to show people the business value of design. Because I think what often happens is when people think about design and they think about what designers and product designers and user experience designers will bring to the table, they think it's mostly you're going to extend our process. You're going to make things longer for us, and then you're going to make it look nice, but it's not really going to have business value. And the thing is that the truth is that design-centric organizations have enormous business value on two sides, both on revenue and on cost. So in revenue, we know that companies that are design-centric shows 10-year returns of 219% over that of the S&P 500 from 2004 to 2014. So we know that companies that have design and user-centered design as part of their process perform better than those companies that don't. The second thing is that it saves a lot of cost. If you are making changes to a product during the design phase and it costs a certain amount, it's going to cost you 6 times as much to make those changes during development once development has already started. And this is true that it's going to cost you 100 times what it would cost you after you've launched your product. So what do a lot of large enterprises do? Windows 10. They take 2 years to develop a new product. They basically use the entire organization to build a giant prototype, and then they test that prototype with end users when they release the product into the world. And when they have to make changes, it is immensely costly to do that. So if you're able to show that with a design process where we make changes and get user feedback during the design phase, you're not only going to increase your revenue, you're also going to reduce your costs significantly. So that's the first thing. Tell people that design isn't just making things pretty, it has a real business value. And secondly is specifically addressing this idea that design is costly, it takes too long. The thing is that it can take long, but it doesn't have to. So there's a bunch of different things we can do depending on how much money we have available. We can, if you have during an exploratory phase, we do a lot of ethnography at Jive, where I go to people's offices and homes and see how they currently work. Or you can just ask a friend about how they currently use the product that you're working on. If you have lots of time, you can build a full-on HTML prototype, or you can just do a paper sketch if there's not a whole lot of time. From user testing, yes, we do a lot of formal usability testing, but there's also a lot of times that I just go to a coffee shop and, wait, that's not right. There, sorry. Where we show someone, I just go to a coffee shop and show, gotta represent, right? Come on, this is Portland. So where you just can show someone at Stumptown, what do you think of this? What do you think of this paper prototype? So it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process to get feedback from end users. The third thing is specifically addressing this issue where sales and product are often in immense conflict with each other. And the only way I've found to work through this is to turn salespeople into allies to product, turn them into a product design function. And the model I like most for this is a model that some of you might be aware of. It's called jobs to be done. And what it basically says is when someone buys a product, they're hiring your product to fulfill a specific job. The example that we always use is if you go to Home Depot to buy a drill, you're not actually buying a drill, you're buying a 1/4-inch hole so that you can put a picture there and make your house feel nice. The drill is just the tool you use to get there. So everything that we sell to people has this job. We hire instant messaging apps. We hire our Facebook. We hire all these products to do a specific job for us. And the part about this that is really helpful from a sales perspective is what it takes for someone to shift from existing behavior to new behavior. In Jive's case, it is how do we get someone to shift from their safe intranet to Jive's collaboration software that they're not familiar with. And there are these two forces at work. There's the progress-making forces. The first progress-making force is the push of the situation. These are things that I don't like about my current software, the things that I wish someone would do differently. And the second progress-making force is the pull of the new idea. It's what I see in this new product that actually looks like I might want to use it. The problem is that the progress-hindering forces at the bottom are often much stronger. And they are allegiance to the current behavior, the fact that I have all my stuff in folders in this one thing and I don't want to move it. And the anxiety of the new solution. Does it have this one feature? Am I going to be able to do this? Why do we think none of the social network upstarts have worked so far? Even if they have worked in terms of beating Facebook or Twitter. Because the progress-hindering forces, the anxiety of the new solution, your allegiance to what you currently do it is just way too strong. It doesn't matter how great that product is. If our progress-hindering forces are too strong, it's going to be a problem. And when we talk to sales with this framework, it really starts to make sense because this is not just a great sales framework, it's also a great product development framework to be able to figure out what product development things do we have to build to be able to make those progress-making forces stronger. So that's the product forces. And then I think this is the last one, breaking down silos through collaboration. And this is something that I really like. There's so much modern collaboration techniques that we can use. At Jive, we do a thing called product discovery, where we get everyone from across the organization together and start talking about not what features do we want to build, but what are the user needs that we want to solve. And we talk to sales and professional services, and they come tell us what they hear in the field. And we prioritize the problems we want to solve. We don't prioritize the features there right in the beginning. We do a thing called Design Studio, where I'll show you a photo of that in a second, where we get a bunch of people from all across the organizations in a room, and you sketch your ideas. And at the end of that, the designers can go away and go refine those ideas. And then spend a lot of time on user research and making it possible for everyone in the organization to do user research. I'm doing this article right now for List Apart that talks about this, about the gap between product leaders and the people who actually make the product, and how difficult it is to make good products when that gap is really large. And the only thing I've found that actually helps us stay user-focused, even in large organizations, is for everyone in the organization to watch real users interact with your end product. It's impossible not to have empathy when you see someone struggle with your product. There's going to be tears, but it's good tears because you're going to feel it and you're going to want to fix it. We're a distributed office, so we do a lot of this actually over video. You see there on the left is a product called Murally that we use as online sticky notes, and we collaborate this way with different offices. Here we're doing usability testing. So on the right there is the app that I'm testing, and on the left is me talking to someone, and this photo is taken from the observation room, so they can actually see me interacting with the person, and they can also see the app itself. I promised I would put this slide in. Where's marketing? Good. Okay. We have a thing outside. This is one of the products that we're developing in this way, and I think it's starting to come through in the way that we do. If we design and develop enterprise software in this way, things are starting to look and feel better and work better for users. So there are these 4 things that I think we can do to start unsucking enterprise software. And that's what I talked about today. First, showing people why it's important. Not just telling them to do research and have designers on staff, but showing them that it actually has business value. Show them it's not going to make their lives difficult. No one wants to add process that doesn't help them. Michael Lopp always says engineers don't hate process, they hate process that can't defend itself. So all we need to make sure of is that we have process that can defend itself. And user-centered design is very much such a process. Give them a framework that covers the whole product. That's where, in our case, jobs to be done, and to a lesser extent, the chasm model comes in. And then make people part of the process. Everyone loves, we can get so many good insights from people who spend time with customers that we really want to be able to make them part of the process. And if we do this, I think we can make enterprise software better. We're also hiring, so come see us outside there. I think that was the last thing marketing wanted me to do, so I'm all good. Thank you. Ready to sit down?
You can sit there.
All right. Which one?
I'll sit here, you sit. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Apparently we're doing a thing now.
Yeah, we are doing a thing
All right.
now. So thanks for that. So I'm the tech and startups reporter at the Portland Business Journal, and I hear from companies a lot about design and user interface and user experience. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, has it only been recently that that's come up in conversation, or is it just me hearing it now? I mean, what happened there?
Yeah, I think being in the design community has obviously been a thing for me for a long time, but specifically, again, from an enterprise perspective, I think we saw this huge shift where the consumer, as designers got more say in consumer companies and those user experience got better, people started bringing those products into the enterprise. And those expectations we're now starting to see in the enterprise. We're finally starting to see people saying, well, this isn't good enough for me anymore to have this impossible HR system. So it's becoming more prevalent in enterprises because people are starting to expect the consumer experiences that they have on their phones and on the web.
And you had mentioned bringing people into the process. And so I'm wondering, do you have any particular favorite techniques that you like to use in terms of, getting the teams to work together or getting that user experience? I mean, what is it that you particularly
Yeah, I have
like?
a bit of a reputation for sticky notes. Like, I don't go anywhere without them. I have some back here, actually, because you never know when you might need to do an affinity diagram. I like to be prepared. So I like sticky notes, and because there's something about having people stand up and write things down and engaging their bodies in the process as well. Or in our case, we sometimes have to do it virtually, like with that product called Murally. Because affinity diagram would be my answer. It's where you put a lot of ideas on sticky notes and then have a collaborative team voting system to get to the best one.
Okay. And obviously you talked about what Jive does, so I'm sure you're partial to what they do, but I'm wondering, are there any other enterprise software companies out there that you think are at least heading in the right direction?
Yeah, I think a lot of my favorites are companies that take existing difficult workflows and change them for the better. I think Trello is one that immediately comes to mind. Trello is it's basically an agile Kanban board, if you're familiar with that kind of stuff, but it's a lot of people used to use very heavy tools like Jira and like it's heavy enterprise tools for that. And Trello came along and made something so simple that it's now actually bleeding into the consumer world where people are using it as their own productivity systems. Murally is the one I just talked about, is a great one that we use. InVision is a product for designers. So there's a lot of process for purpose-built stuff for people who have very specific workflows in enterprises that are really good, simple experiences, I think.
Okay. I think we have time for a couple questions, at least from the audience, if anybody's got anything. Maybe if I can see anybody. Nope, I think there's one over here. Maybe there's a mic coming to
It's really frightening not to see what's going on.
I know.
Yeah. Like, is there anyone out there?
They're in.
Light.
People.
I'm just going to ask all the human nature questions
Okay.
today.
Okay.
So having used some enterprise software that's designed here in Portland, I like to call the enterprise software a human nature problem, right? If you've ever used SharePoint, you know you can do anything in SharePoint, and it gets to this place where it's kind of a jumbled mess after years of using it. And so I'm curious how you deal with that when you even have legacy in your own product, in your own system. How do you reteach good behavior, practices of knowledge management, so that doesn't end up happening?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think it comes back to who we sell to. So we sell to people who want all these features and they don't really care about it. I think what we're starting to see as a solution are these purpose-built type things. We're starting to see design in the enterprise actually having an opinion. I think Microsoft, when they came out with one of the earlier Windows versions, there was this big thing about how they said it's no compromise design. And which is actually a really bad thing, because if there's no compromise and that's how you got to the ribbon and to 150 options in Microsoft Word, and I think we're starting to see through user research people building purpose-built designs that have an opinion about what you're supposed to do with this thing to make it easier for people not to get lost. One of the enduring UX myths is that it's about the fewest number of clicks possible, and I've never believed that. What's most important is that the next step is as obvious to you as possible. If there's 5 steps, it's okay if you don't get lost. If there's 1 click and you don't know where that click is, it's not very useful that it's 1 click away, and that's, sorry to keep harping on Microsoft, but it's just a thing. But I think if we can have designs that have more of an opinion and show people what their next obvious step is, that's where we're starting to see those improvements.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. If there's one down here.
Yes, I have one question.
Wait, I think you have to wait for the mic.
I'm scared of your question for some reason. I don't know.
Oh, it's okay, I don't bite.
Okay.
Now, my question is, when you were inspired for this speech, I get the feeling that there was a particular worst offender that you had in mind. Who was at the top of that most wanted list?
You can ask, this is off the record, right? But I have to say ADP. Like, does anyone use ADP for their paycheck stuff? Yeah, it is. I hope that wasn't developed in Portland. I'd feel really bad, but that's a particularly difficult one for me to get used to. Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty.
All right, I think we're out of time now, but thank you very much.
Am I going to get fired for that? I'm really worried.
I don't think so.
Hi, marketing.
I think you're fine. You're fine.